Here's Brody Brazil.
Yesterday in San Francisco, the Giants held their introductory press conference for Buster Posey. But I mean, what really is there to introduce about Buster? Everybody knows him, but it's more about him taking over this role as the team's new president of baseball operations. He's never done something like this before. What got him motivated? What got him interested? How's he going to handle this very important role in trying to take the next steps for the franchise and the organization? So, yeah, less about introducing him, more about asking him some of these very detailed questions and getting the answers. Now, full disclosure, I only saw bits and pieces of this press conference. I didn't get to watch the thing in full as it happened from start to finish. So that's what I'll do here and now. I'll press play and go and jump right into this, and I'll add some commentary, obviously, as we go.
Opening remarks from Greg and Buster, and then we'll get into questions. Greg?
Thanks, Matt. Well, welcome, everybody. It certainly is a momentous day for the Giants organization.
Greg Johnson, chairman of the San Francisco Giants.
And firstly, I'd like to thank all of the Giants fans for their tremendous support in what has been somewhat of an up and down and disappointing season.
2 games below 500. It's not like you're the Chicago White Sox. It's also not like you're moving out of town like the A's.
Secondly, I'd like to thank Farhan Zaidi for his 6-year tenure as president of baseball operations. I've certainly enjoyed working with Farhan, have nothing but respect for him, and wish him well in the future.
Classy statement, classy move.
I also want to thank Kristen Posey for agreeing to this, because that may be one of the biggest sacrifices with 4 young ones at home. We certainly appreciate that.
To be honest, though, like when you start to think about it, as a young family person, I can totally relate to that. Even if you really wanted to do this but felt like this isn't right for our family, yes, to the point, it was a family decision.
I mean, we all know Buster as the player, you know, all of the tremendous memories that we had with him and him leading us to 3 World Series, the Hall of Fame MVP career. But those aren't the reasons that we're here today. I think for me and for the board, you know, what we have observed with Buster and in working with him over the last 3 years is that competitive fire he has to win. It didn't end when he took his jersey off. It's as strong today as ever.
Does that surprise anybody, by the way?
You know, I've grown to respect all of his skills and how he deals with people, his intellect, how he listens. It's a we mentality, and I think just really all of the skills you need in being a leader.
He's a catcher, right? What else do you expect?
Also, the pride he takes in the Giants organization. And
only team he ever played for.
And the responsibility that it comes with representing the Giants organization. So I think we believe there's no better person to lead the baseball side and set the right tone at the top for the Giants organization. But I think the most important is just his desire to build the kind of team that lives up to the expectations of our fans. So without further ado, I am thrilled and proud and privileged to turn it over to our new president of baseball operations, Buster Posey.
Gerald! Oh, sorry, Buster.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate the kind words. You know, I'm just excited. I'm excited to have an opportunity to be in this role. I'm excited to be a part of a team again. San Francisco Giants organization is all I've ever known.
Fair enough. By the way, he's looking like me a little bit there. We do get our hair cut by the same barber. True story. Got the little dash of grays coming in there, but looking really good, though. If we're here to judge body language, like Buster is showing up ready for the job.
You know, and I think over the years as a player and the role I was in the last few years, I gained a pretty good sense of what it means to fans to have great players and to have great teams. I think back on some of my earliest memories walking into a spring training clubhouse and walking in and seeing Willie Mays sitting at a table with Willie McCovey and Gaylord Perry, Juan Marichal, Joe Amalfitano. You know, the next week it's Will Clark, Jeff Kent, Barry Bonds. I always appreciated, and I don't think I'd appreciated it as much when I was a younger player, but as time went on, I appreciated just what that meant, not only to the community, but to us as players, and that there's a standard and expectation for being a San Francisco Giant.
It's like a generational thing, I think, to his point.
And it's a privilege to try to go out there on the field and hold ourselves accountable to that standard. You know, those guys that I mentioned, you know, you can go more towards my era with Kane and Lincecum and Bumgarner and Crawford and Belt, and you could go on and on.
Pablo.
And in my time, what I came to realize is, yeah, sure, all of those guys were great players. They were part of great teams. But what those guys ultimately meant to the San Francisco Giants fan base and the community was memories. And all of us that are lucky enough to get to be involved in baseball in whatever capacity, I think understand that not only is it the greatest game in the world, but we're in the memory-making business. It's ultimately entertainment. It's an opportunity for grandparents and parents to share memories with friends. It's an opportunity for strangers sitting out in the bleachers to share a great memory that happens at the ballpark and that can be talked about from that time on for the rest of their life, potentially. So,
wow. I mean, just sorry, but that is deep right there. Most GMs and presidents talk about building the team and structure and payroll, and he says we're trying to make memories here. That goes like 5 steps deeper than building a team. That's a quote to remember right there if you're a Giants fan.
You know, with all of that in mind, I just can't say again how humbled I am to be in this role and again be a part of a team that's hopefully looking forward to making, you know, more great memories for this fan base and community.
Memories. Very interesting. Good
With
first
that,
comment.
we can open it up to questions. Just a reminder, if you have a question, to please
Bomel.
raise your hand, and we will get you a microphone.
Bomel in a suit and tie showing up. He understood the assignment.
Start here with Susan.
Susan Slusser, San Francisco Chronicle.
Hi, Buster. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Friend of the channel, by the way.
What was the process like for you as you were trying to determine whether this was something you wanted to take on? Could you go through that?
Well, they locked me up in a room and said I can't come out until I take the job. No, I'm kidding.
Well, as Greg alluded to, it was convincing my wife, number one.
Seriously?
You know what? I mean,
Like, he's going to be consumed by this. Maybe even more so than he ever was as a baseball player. Seriously? It might be like that.
Again, I'm so passionate about baseball. I know I finished a few years ago, and
He probably could have played a few more years, to be honest. I mean, the dude looks like he could still rake.
but just the opportunity, again, like I mentioned, to be a part of a team. I think the chance to be in a position to hopefully elevate people that are all a part of this, elevate staff, elevate players, and to again, we're in a memory making business, and
He dropped it again. Like, he's real about that. You don't keep throwing that in there unless you're really buying in. You're buying into that idea.
Sure, winning's great, and ultimately that's our goal, is to, you know, be a playoff team every year and compete for a championship. But I think just the overall big picture of being a part of something that's bigger than yourself was really appealing.
Let's go to the left, Janie.
Janie McCauley?
Hi, Buster.
Hey.
Good morning.
These are all my friends, by the way.
What sort of did you gain over the last couple of years doing this, doing some of this behind the scenes in terms of the business side and maybe trial and error and what worked and what didn't, and maybe a couple examples that you'll take into this position now that you're doing it every single day? Well,
I think, you know, first and foremost, I have a lot to learn. Just being a day and a half into this.
Well said. I mean, it's the obvious, right? He's a great player and he knows the game of baseball, but now we're talking about contracts and agents and the free agent game and all that stuff of manipulating a roster. It's a little bit different than being on the roster and being great on the roster.
I've already had some conversations and plan to have a lot more conversations. And one thing I'm very confident about, and because I've known these people for a long time now, is there's a tremendous amount of great people in place that are on the same page and wanting to work to get this team where we all know it should be. I think it's what I'm excited about are the relationships. It is about, having a common vision and working towards a goal and having a standard of what the expectation is to be a San Francisco Giant.
Susan?
Buster, what do you think the rest of your front office might look like? Are you planning on any changes there?
Yeah, we're going to hire a GM. That's going to be one of the first tasks right out the gate.
So that's going to be interesting. I mean, as much as Buster being the president is fascinating and motivating, I think, to a lot, it is that new age relationship, president and then the GM. It used to be just the GM. So we'll see who he has relationships with. Maybe it's somebody he knows sort of somewhat already. Maybe it's somebody he doesn't know, but is a friend of a friend.
Pete's been made aware that he'll be moving off the GM role, and we'll kind of work through what some other responsibilities might look like for him.
You obviously don't have a lot of experience in this kind of role. What's your response to people that discuss that, your relative lack of experience and what that might mean for who you're looking for a GM?
Fair question. And you know what? To those I've talked to in the baseball world already about this, they've said he should probably bring in somebody with prior GM experience, just because of the fact that it would be extra valuable.
Yeah, it's fair. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, and again, I do think a strength of mine is that I'll be all ears and listening and taking in information from people that have been doing this for a long time, and I do think it's important that we bring in a guy or girl that's been well versed in all aspects of front office.
And I would add that we have a very deep and experienced front office with people like Jeremy Shelley that could take on the job. So I think there is a nice compliment.
Yeah.
Let's go to the right. Mark?
Hey, Buster. When did you know that a more day-to-day operations type of role might be in your future? Does it go back to when you moved your family here, or has this been more of a recent development?
Right, because he did come out to California and everybody said, all right, Buster's back. He's hanging out with the organization. They gave him a role. I don't think anybody thought back then it was to do something like this, right?
It's been more recent. The move back honestly had nothing to do with what my future might look like with the Giants, which I think for us makes it all the more special because it truly was a move back because we enjoy this area and we enjoy the friends that we've made in this area. And I think just over the last, few weeks, months, we've been kind of talking through some different scenarios, and it's where we landed.
Let's go to the back left. Tim?
Tim Kawakami, probably, which, like I said, is an endorsement of the Giants. Like, here's somebody who wants it, who really gets it, wants it, is ingrained in it, understands it, and in the same way that Bob Melvin does, played for the Giants. You literally have your field manager and now your president of baseball operations, former San Francisco Giant players. No offense, Bo Mel. Posey was a Giants great. I'll leave it at that. Love you, Bo
Buster,
Mel.
just give us a sense what your general philosophy is going to be. Are you going to use analytics in a significant way? Are you going to, you have an analytics staff? Is that something you want to push forward? And what just generally are you going to look for out of your club?
Great question.
Most definitely going to use analytics. I think that the analytics are here and they're here to stay, and it would be a mistake to say that you're not going to use that information.
I think there's a but coming here, but
as far as general philosophy, I think it's as many of you know me, a lot of my basic principles are pretty simple. I want us to be known as a team that's the ultimate prepared team, one that's fundamentals are held at a really high standard. And ultimately, this is all about the players. It's all about putting great players on the field. And I think our job as a front office, with Bob here as a coaching and the coaching staff, is to be able to identify those players and then get the most out of them.
It's interesting, right? Because people want to identify baseball executives and managers and coaches. You're either an analytics person or you're a baseball person. Like, you hate the analytics. And like, it's okay to be a hybrid of both, somewhere in the middle. Maybe you lean a little bit away from the analytics, but you know they're out there and you recognize them. Or maybe you lean a little bit towards the analytics, but you obviously understand baseball decisions have to be made with gut instinct from time to time. So again, I just think the point of that is, I don't know that you have to be 100% one or the other, nor should anybody be anymore. Somewhere in the middle, and you could lean one side or the other.
Let's go to Andy.
For Greg, if this was an arrangement that you were looking for, with Buster having quite a bit of influence, he could have had that influence in maybe more of a less out in front capacity and hire another president that would report to him.
Right, and this is a stage, right? Like, this is, for Buster, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with this, because before he was a fan favorite and people just loved him, all he had to do is smile and wave. Now, like, he's got the weight of the team in his hands.
It was important to have him sort of out front on this.
I think it was, there's a lot of different scenarios you could come up with, but I think Buster is just somebody that asked for the ball here and wanted the accountability of not trying to kind of work with other people, and that's really what a leader does. And I think at the end of the day, we talked a lot about complementing his skill set with hires and building around him to build for success. And I think he was very, agreeable to doing that. So, it started kind of early discussions, and then I think we both got comfortable with the idea of bringing in an experienced GM to work and take some of the load off. But really, it was really Buster's desire to be accountable 100% for baseball, and I think that spoke a lot to me that he desired that.
Which, now that we're painting this picture in reverse, like, all of this seems to have been talked about now for probably the course of a lot of this baseball season. And if you're Farhan, I mean, you probably expected some of this might be possible, and the Chapman thing and how that contract came together with Buster's influence. My point is, like, we're here, 2 days removed from the regular season, and they're making this. They made the move the day after the season ended yesterday, 2 days ago, as you watch this on Monday. My point is, all of this had been orchestrated now for many months. This isn't something that happened in the course of September. Realistically, this was probably a full-fledged idea somewhere right after the All-Star break, I think. Hey, is anybody going to ask Bomel a question, or is he just there for looks?
Let's go to the front right, Ann.
Come on, Ann
Hey,
Killing.
Buster.
Go for Bob. Buster.
How did you convince Kristen? But I have a follow-up too.
That's a good question. What was the line?
Oh, what I think Kristen, I've been so just blessed to have such a supportive wife. For, believe it or not, it's been 15 years. Yes, we got married young.
Congrats.
I think she knew, she could just tell how excited I was about this opportunity, and that in our relationship, it goes both ways. If there's something that she's excited and passionate about, I want to support her in that as well.
Do you feel the brand has been tarnished in recent years? And besides winning a championship, how do you reinvigorate the brand, the sense
brand
of who the Giants are?
Wow.
I wouldn't say the brand's been tarnished. I mean, again, I think that's a lot of discussion we're going to be having over the next, weeks and months is about our identity, and again, I want to be clear, like, our identity really boils down to the players on the field and the way that they play and the type of players they are and how they handle themselves, not only on the field but in the community. So I think that's going to be a big part of discussion, is like what really is important to us as an organization, and what are we going to hang our hat on at the end of the day.
Basically, I want a team full of me. If they're all just like me, who wouldn't love that?
Let's go to the front right. Sam.
Sam, please ask Bo Mel a question, please.
Busters, this is for you, for Bob as well.
Oh, yes!
What do you imagine the vision for what Giants baseball will look like with you kind of running the show here? You know, like on a day-to-day, you know, on the field, what is your vision for what Giants baseball will look like going forward?
I mean, again, it really, hopefully what it's going to be is we all love, I know Bob loves good, crisp, clean baseball and guys that are going to be always prepared. I think what I can draw on from a player is knowing that if I went into a game and I know I had prepared to the best of my ability, no matter the outcome or result of that game, I could be satisfied with that. And that's, you know, for me, I'm hopeful that our guys are going to get there, and that's going to be something that is really important to them as well.
And maybe they weren't that way this year.
And for me, just probably a little bit more well-rounded team to where we can win, you know, in different ways. And if we're not swinging the bats well, we play good defense, we pitch, we execute, you know, we manufacture at times. So I think we just need to focus on all the different areas to make our team better and to be able to win games in different ways.
And Bob, what excites you the most about being able to work with Buster?
Well, I mean, you know, it's Buster Posey, it's the Giants. That's a big deal. So, you know, like Greg said, when, you know, somebody like Buster asks for the ball, you give it to him. And he's meant so much to this community, to this baseball team, to the organization, the city, all the above. So that's what I'm excited about, is being able to work with a guy that's had that type of success here in this organization.
You know, in all fairness, Bo Mel just lasted a full regular season, spring training, 162. Thought he was going to have a little bit of time off here. It's like, wait, come on back to San Francisco. Need you for the press conference. So if he's not bringing the energy, like, you understand why.
I'm really excited to work with Bob as well. You know, getting to, as a player, see him in the opposing dugout.
There you go.
If I ever made eye contact with Bob when I was playing, I never felt like he liked me, and I think he might.
I admittedly didn't, and I never made eye contact with him either, because he was always making my life really difficult.
So I'm happy we're going to get to share some more endearing glances, I guess.
It's crazy that, like, Bo Mel was obviously managing all the years that Buster was playing. In fact, most of it was just right across the bay.
Let's go to the left.
And now Buster's everybody's boss.
Janie.
Hi, Greg. When it comes to spending money, I mean, he's also in your ownership group still, correct? So does that streamline anything when it comes to free agency or acquiring someone, and just, you know, the spending and how it gets done, and knowing that you have a close communication?
Yeah, I mean, I think it certainly helps. And, you know, one of the questions was, well should you have him continue on the board in that role? And we think absolutely. And like Larry, who runs the business side, has been a board member for a long time. It just helps the overall communication. If there's anything, you know, if you like any board, if you have a conflict and you want to talk about somebody's contract or something, you step out of the meeting. It's very easy. But, you know, having them there does help. But the communication on things like that are going to be more day-to-day anyway as they come up, rather than, you know, having a board meeting or things.
It's a trip. Buster has ownership stake in the team, and now like the lead baseball operations job for the team. That's a lot of responsibility and a lot of decision-making power.
Let's go to the back. Alex.
Hi, Greg, this is for you. Last year you answered a question about the luxury tax, but in the time since the A's have left the Bay Area, the Giants are now the only team in this massive market. Do you expect the franchise to be a perennial luxury tax paying team going forward? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same answer we had last year, that we're opportunistic, we're strategic, we don't set a number every year. We look at what we need to do, and we will, like we did last year, where you had a couple of good players available at the end, you went over the luxury tax. So I think
Snell, Chapman, Chapman's extension, by the way.
It's just, we will do it if we have to, and we will spend what we need to put a winning team on the field.
Let's go to the back. John.
Yeah, first, congrats.
John Shea, friend of the program.
Buster.
Thanks, John.
A year ago at this same stage when Bob was introduced, Farhan said that Bob had a 3-year contract, and as we found out, it was actually a 2-year guarantee. Just wondering about if there will be better transparency, and do you have terms, Buster, or as an owner, or are you just in it for as long as you want to do it? Are there years involved?
Yeah, I mean, that's a rough one, right? Like, my boss is right here. He talked to my boss.
And as well, will Bob have any kind of extension, or will he go into next year as a lame duck?
That's a fair, like, overall, I see what John was trying to do, saying, like, what's the contractual situation for all of you here?
Yeah, one, I'm not sure transparency is required for discussing contracts anyway, because I think they get in the way of running a team during the year, and a lot of questions that come up that are very disruptive.
That's fair. I mean, for team strategy, it doesn't help them to know that GMs come up at a certain time or presidents come up at a certain time, and usually a GM likes their manager, and right. So it's interesting here because now you've got the president and the field manager, and then the general manager is going to go kind of like right in between there. Usually the GM is the one that brings in their own manager. Here they have the structure. They just kind of need that missing puzzle piece in the middle.
Buster does have a 3-year deal with no contingencies or anything.
Now we know.
But my view is, I've had this debate and discussion, is whether any contracts with, whether it's your manager or head of baseball, should be public, because I think it doesn't serve.
He definitely, you could tell on the side of, like, he just let it out, but you can also tell that he didn't maybe win that battle in the conversation of the group decision of, are we going to announce the term of the contract or not?
The team very well to raise questions during the year. So
I get
that's
it.
something that we would consider. But as far as the transparency goes, I think we were as transparent as we needed to be on that.
Look, I've always had a contract working on camera and television, and I don't tell people when my contract started or ended, and that's just, it's not really important to anybody's final product other than myself.
And Bob's contract situation will there be an extension, or
for life? Give it to him for life, please.
Will he go in next season as?
That's for Buster.
Well, that's who I'm asking.
Look, again, this is day 2 for me. I've said how much I admire and respect Bob, and one thing I'm going to try to do as this continues to progress is, you guys have known me in the clubhouse, the cliche of going day to day. It's going to apply to this as well, and again, I'm excited about.
Look, I'm sure they've already all talked about this behind the scenes. It's just, maybe there's not a good answer. Maybe there's not an answer that Buster wants to give here.
Working with Bob, there's not many active managers that have the track record that he does. And from my experience talking to numerous players while I was playing and then post-playing, to a man, everybody loves playing for Bob Melvin.
And just one more. Farhan, earlier this month, let go of 4 scouts. And will you bring those back? And you mentioned that analytics are here to stay, but what will the balance be, if at all? Because, last year, this past year, and throughout Farhan's time, it was mostly new school, not much old school. And do you want a better balance? And what about those scouts?
Yeah, again, for me, it's understanding where people are, what people are doing. I will say, from a scouting perspective, I value scouts very much so. I look to Brian Sabian and his scouting background, and as much as anything, whomever is working in the Giants organization as a scout, if you're a scout, if you're a trainer or a strength coach in rookie ball, my goal is for those people to be empowered and understand what they're doing on the ground is extremely significant for what we're trying to accomplish here at the big league level. So can I give you an exact answer right now? I can't.
Let's go to the back left, Brian.
Unfortunately, we wanted to know about Bo Mel's contract. We wanted to know about analytics decisions. We wanted to know about scouting. We didn't get much from Buster. But I'll also say, he's just jumping in this pool. And if he gave you all those answers and showed you all his cards from day one, then he might regret ever having to backtrack on any of that. So kind of what did you expect? I'm not faulting. You got to ask the questions, but I don't know that we were going to get great answers in all of that.
Hey guys, all three, congratulations, Buster. And
Is that Brian Murphy?
look forward to talking to you. This morning on KMBR, we had sound from September 2022 when you were joining the ownership, and you said, I'm not here to get involved in the front office day to day.
Uh-oh.
And here we are. So something changed.
Uh-oh.
So what changed? What did you see that you didn't like that made you ask for the ball?
Oh, good question.
Well, again, I think it goes back to my opening statements that I've seen what great players and what great teams can mean to this community. And so to have an opportunity to be a part of a team that supports the ultimate team that's out there on the field was just really appealing. I don't think there's much more fulfilling than much more fulfilling than being able to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. And again, Greg mentioned Jeremy Shelley, who's been here for 30 years. There's just so many great people that I've gotten to know over the years that are still part of this organization that I'm just thrilled to be working with.
I like that Buster is really into this for the fans, for the community. It's not just to win games. I mean, obviously, to do it for the community, you do win a lot of games. So he's seeing even again, a deeper level than just the X's and O's and the black and white.
Let's go to the left, Maria.
Hi, Buster. Congratulations. Just what were your takeaways from the 2024 season, and what do you feel like the club's biggest needs will be heading into next year?
Important question.
Well, I mean, it felt like one of those years where it was just hard to get a lot of momentum. I think Bob would probably be able to speak on that better, but just from what I saw, seemed like one of those years where if the pitching was going, the offense wasn't, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Look, I hate to be, probably want more specifics, but ultimately, as a group, our goal is to put the most talented baseball players on the field, whatever position that is. So that's what we're going to be looking for going into the season is, who do we have in the system? Who do we have currently on the major league roster that we see as players that are going to mesh together to get us back on track?
Let's go to Marty.
Buster, congratulations.
Marty Laurie.
How do you assess this team that you have now, and how much work do you have ahead right now as you look at it? Because you've been here to watch the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, I think, Marty, similar to the way I just answered it is ultimately we just have to play better baseball. We've got to pitch better. We've got to do the little things better. We've got to the margins are just so small between winning and losing when you're talking about the best players in the world competing on a nightly or daily basis. So I think that's going to be a big focus is just for us as a group to understand that all these little decisions or actions that take place over the course of the year can have a big impact on the end result.
Let's go to Andy.
Buster, sort of dovetailing off that, I mean, you're taking over from Farhan, who was very good at working the margins and very active. How do you just imagine the mechanics of your day-to-day will go? Are you going to be on the phone with Bob after a Wednesday night finding out what lefty you can get to Houston the next day? Or, how much do you plan to delegate and how much do you plan to really just have your fingers in this day-to-day?
Yeah, Bags, I mean, I think that remains to be seen. Again, I mentioned empowering. We're gonna bring in a GM, and I think once that comes in, some of the delegation will take shape a little bit more.
And I think that's another thing. We're all here maybe with the mentality that he's the GM. Let's remember he's the president of baseball operations, and with Farhan he was the president but kind of acted like the GM. Maybe Buster's going to act more like the president and let the GM be the GM.
I want to be as useful as I can to be with all the people that I'm working with, but also having in mind and understanding that it's somewhat of a delicate balancing act to where I don't want to be the type of leader that is constantly feeling like I'm looking over somebody's shoulder as well. So I think a lot of that is going to be handled over these next weeks, month, as we start to have more conversations and get synced up more.
Okay, we'll take three more. To the left, Alex.
Hey, Buster, you played for two very different kinds of coaching staffs. How do you envision your coaching staff, and also will there be any changes from this previous group?
Yeah, I think we're
Will Ron Wotus come back full time? I love Woe.
very happy. I know Bob's happy with his staff, and as far as changes goes, I think we have to look and see where people are at personally, and where some contracts are. But I know, speaking with Bob, he's very happy with the big league staff. Obviously, you've got guys on that staff with a great track record that I think that players can identify with really well. And there's a nice mix of some younger people in there as well. Sorry, what was the last part of your question?
How do you envision your ideal staff, I guess, compared to, you had Bochy's staff and then you played under Gabe. How would you like to see that?
Again, I mean, it's all about, it's the players first.
I don't know that he's thought about that yet, maybe it feels like.
I think that's what I learned about Boch over the years is I always felt like Boch was pretty easy on us as players. But what I learned as time went along, he beat up on his coaches pretty good. And I think, again, from my experience with Boch and Sabes and talking with Bob, is the understanding that ultimately your job is a supporting role, right? Our job in the front office is a supporting role. Our job, their job as a coaching staff is a supporting role. So, I mentioned a balancing act and a fine line to Bags on another question, but I think one of the challenges is going to be, with all the information we have now, is going to each player, and a lot of this does fall on the coach, is how much information can you give that player before it's too much, before it's diminished returns, and understanding that this guy's not exactly like the guy sitting right next to him in the locker. I think that's in today's game, that's a big part of preparing for the game. Whereas early on in my career, that really wasn't a big part of the game. So
they didn't have iPads in the dugouts when Buster came around. 2009, 10.
We want guys ultimately too. When I say guys, the guys on the field that are out there every single night and day, to be accountable for their own careers. And I do think we live in our this day and age in our baseball world where there is so much information that it's easy sometimes to shift blame for one reason or another. And ultimately, I do hope to have a group of guys that no matter what, they can be accountable for their own selves and careers on the field.
Susan?
Buster, obviously a big part of this job is dealing with free agents, and I know you can't talk about potential free agents until the
not yet
season's over and that period begins, but you guys have a pretty prominent free agent of your own. What are your thoughts on Blake Snell and potentially bringing him back? When might you start talks?
I mean, Blake's one of the premier starting pitchers in the big leagues, has been for a while, and the run he went on the last 12 or 14 starts, I think I saw a quote from Bob. It was really like nothing you'd ever seen. So he's obviously somebody that's going to be a priority for us to take a hard look at and make a decision as a group.
Last one to Justice.
Hey, Buster, as far as looking for a GM, what are some of the ideal traits that you look for? And given that free agency is roughly a month away, what's your ideal timetable as far as hiring a GM?
It's got to be ASAP, right?
Yeah, to answer the back end of that first, I mean, I think it's right away. I think we get going on this right away and get some potential candidates in and get interviews going. As far as qualities, I mean, I want a leader.
Wait a second, I don't have a job. I need a job. Hey, Buster.
Servant leader. I want somebody that, again, is going to empower the people that are working with them and for them. Ideally somebody that does have somewhat of a scouting background, I think will be important for me as well. And again, having in mind that today's game is so much about meshing what your eyes see and your instincts are with what the data is telling you.
There we go.
Okay, that will conclude today's press conference. Thank you guys so much for attending, and Buster, congratulations.
Thanks.
All right, there you have it, the press conference from Oracle Park. Buster Posey introduced. And I say introduced. Buster Posey in his new role is presented with a lot of questions. I think all the questions were great. I think they touched on everything they could. I don't know that he could answer everything yet. Time is going to play out here. I'm curious to see how it goes for Buster, how well he can do with the GM, how well that tandem can do with Bob Melvin and the players on the field. And look, I mean, Buster's going to get judged right away. Winter meetings, free agency that opens up. So he's got a team that's about 500. So it's not a total project here to take this over and make things right. He just has to get them to the next step. He's got to get them at least to the playoffs. That's the end of this video. Really appreciate you sticking with it. Thumbs up down below because you made it here to the end. I would really appreciate that. Helps me, this channel, and this video. Also, real quick before it ends, go down there and make sure that you are already subscribed to this channel. That way I definitely get to see you back here next time.